Good morning, everyone. It's Kris with Inspired Energy this morning. This morning, my friend Gary here has decided to join me graciously so that we could have a discussion about vulnerability and share a little bit of his story in regards to some of the trauma type things that have happened in his life, in which he has had to pull together, become resilient, and overcome. So this is welcome, Gary.
Oh,
Thank
boy.
you.
Okay. Pandora's box, so to
Yeah.
speak, I guess.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for making yourself available and for also honoring us with your presence and opening up to share. So the intention is that we all know that when we speak our truth and we share those stories in which we are vulnerable, that others, may judge, but it also heals many.
Yeah.
So they can put themselves in those shoes and they can see, oh, if that person can overcome that kind of thing, then I should be able to do that. And that there's always hope, right?
Mm-hmm. There's always hope. I think at the end of the day, when you finally see that there's still a little bit of a light that's left within. And to go into a little bit of a long story, you find somebody that you fall deeply in love with, and you give all of yourself to. You build something together, and without going into too much of that story, I'll go into where it fell apart, okay, and what it did for me in many ways. Having been in that relationship, we're working 7 days a week. We're living together, everything, 24 hours around the clock. And we had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful business together. And there was a moment where it was rocky. Okay. Things became a little harder to overcome, financial pressures from everything else going on.
It's also a relationship that because when you're in relationship, you're building those things such as trust.
Yeah.
Right. And you trust that other person. That's why you're in business with them. That's why you're in relationship with them. So there's all these things along the way that is a key to the story, I think, that you're about to tell.
Yes,
right?
Very much so. Trust is still trust. And Kris and I have had some talks about that. Trust is still something that I'm working a lot more on. I've always been trustworthy. I grew up believing that we trust, even when it was wrong. We're still trusting, the benefit of the doubt. But in the case where that trust is tested beyond the benefit of the doubt, and in the breakup, without going into the details, it not only was an end of a relationship, it was end of a business, end of a multitude of things all at the same time. And with all of the strength and the understanding of spirituality, I found myself at a moment that I call a brokenness. I was broken down to, I had no faith left. I had no hope left. Everything was just gone. Okay. And in a split instance, I decided to do something quite rash. And that was where I decided to try and take my own life.
But do you think, because what I just heard from you is a very similar story to part of my story, and that is, you're pouring everything into the relationship, everything into the business, everything.
Yeah.
So you're pouring all this stuff out and you're depleting yourself. But where are you? And do you think that is actually the essence of what actually happens to us? Because that's what happened to me, was you lose your whole identity. And what is my purpose? Like, I thought this was what I was supposed to be doing, and now everything is ripped out from underneath me. So then what the heck am I here for, right?
Oh my God. When you explain it that way, up until I'd say almost 3 years ago, in regards to social media, there was nothing out there about me. I was always in the background. Okay. And like you said, losing yourself, which you really hit the point, is I poured all of myself into it. Not in the sense for myself, but for the sense what I believed in, with the relationship. And, it was about building the image, building, the reputations, all of this, and sacrificing myself in the sense where where was I in that? I mean, I knew what my capacity was. I can do, me, I can do like hundreds of things.
Right.
And so I poured myself into it in the belief that unconditionally, my love was poured into everything, passion. The hours, 16 hours a day, sometimes even, longer, 7 days a week, and the ability to take a break, there wasn't.
But for somebody else's dream and vision of what they wanted, not necessarily what you wanted.
No, mine was simple. Was you're happy, I'm good. And that's where I was with it. And then to have that totally just ripped out underneath your feet in a moment of deception. So going into the details of that is that just everything fell apart and lost all hope. And like I said, broken. I mean, that essence where you are more than shattered. Like that's it. I've had enough.
You have no energy left.
No
you have
energy
no
left.
To get up.
No energy. I didn't want to get back. I said, that's it. I went through everything, and many know that I work with essential oils. Okay. And believe me, when I say essential oils are extremely dangerous, they are. Okay. They can kill, they can maim everything. And so in a moment of just total just blackness. I mean, like you want to talk about dark night of the soul. I mean, this was a dark day of the soul.
Right.
I mean, it was so dark, it was unbelievable. That essence to be able to, put yourself to that point where I just said, okay, that's it. Shut it down. And turned everything off except I thought I turned my telephone off. Okay. And
lifeline.
So that ended up being the hidden lifeline. And my sister, fortunately, thanks
for catching that.
Oh yeah, she sensed something was wrong. In fact, she had a rock that was in her purse, and she was at the table, and she heard this clack, and it actually just split inside her purse. And right away, her inclination was to try and call me, and there wasn't getting any response. And she sensed there was something.
There was something wrong.
And so 60 mLs of essential oils, don't do that. Okay. It should have shut everything down. Should have turned. Oh yeah, don't drink it. You know what? It's like a lot of people out there say, you can ingest essential oils. Be very, very careful. Okay, they can damage the esophagus, they can damage the internal organs, they can shut everything down. And the oils that I chose were known for this. So, drinking it alone was like it just burnt all the ways down.
Yeah.
And just found myself sort of in and out. But I also had a secondary step in case that didn't work. I'd actually taken a rope and put it into the attic space and had pulled it down. So I was going to make sure that one way or another, that's it. I'm going home.
Yeah.
That's to me what I was about to do.
I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, don't want to deal with it anymore. And just down to the ground, and I was coming in and out. And I guess what my sister had done is she has her brother-in-law or her son-in-law, which was in the police, and they started painting my telephone. So they had the police, the ambulances, the fire, like everybody, all the first responders. And at one moment when I actually had opened my eyes, there was like, where's all these people? And like, it's like, have I arrived where I should be? Is this a judgment of all my peers?
You thought you had gone somewhere?
It's like I'm finally being, okay, here I am, people, I'm back, right? But it just I went in and out, and I actually went out. Okay, so that's a second near-death experience where, again, I'm up and I'm before and I'm going, okay, no, I don't want to come back. No, you have to come back. No, you have a purpose. No, I don't have a purpose. I'm finished with my
You're
purposes.
having a conversation with God.
Oh yeah, I'm very stubborn. Okay, He knows that. Because I was arguing. It's like, no.
But that's why He gave you the job that He gave you, right? The persistence, right? And we all have those moments, even though that we are, and I'm with you on this, we have that tenacity and that determination to make something work, even though there are those days where you just go, oh, give up. I just give up. I've tried so hard and people just disappoint me. But what we have to understand is that it's us, right? It's not them, it's us.
Yeah.
And we have to just keep walking our path, which is what you've started doing again. You've started stepping back into working with the essential oils, working with the skincare and things that could, invoke and tweak all of that and bring it back up for you.
Well, and in a nutshell, that if you know the product line that I'm working with now, it's called Phoenix Apothecary. And there's a story behind that. That moment of finding myself in the hospital, the suicide attempt, trying to push drugs onto me, trying to push the antidepressants, trying to, you need this, you need that. And I'm going like, no, it's not going to happen. And, being in that hospital with people that were I realized were not as broken as me. They were so drugged out on antidepressants and changes of medications that, again, the savior, I'm not thinking about me. I'm going to come forward and think about the others. And just the ability to work with that for the couple of weeks I was there, and a very, very, very good friend. And me and you both know him.
Well, you can say his name, I'm sure.
Yeah, Dominic McKenzie is the owner of the Float House here in Edmonton. And he is another beautiful, enlightening soul. And he actually came to visit me in the hospital. And at the moment that he visited me in the hospital, he had no questions. He just sat in presence. He brought me up a Timmy's.
He held space.
He held space. He brought me up a little bit of, some donuts and some sugar fixes and things like that. And just listened to the story and held space. And he knows me from both a professional side and a very, personal side. And just for him to be there was that little bit of light.
But does not just show, because here's something else. We're all meant to be light for others.
Yeah.
So in that case, Dominic was that light that sparked, right?
Gave
you a shock.
Yeah.
That said, okay, I'll come back. I'll come back from this, right?
Yeah.
So this is what we're here to do. And even when you go into things like the Bible, and it says, where two or more are gathered, there I am, right? So that's what it's all about. It's about holding that space for each other and helping each other through. It's not necessarily saying you need to do this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
It's just holding your hand and letting you be vulnerable and share your story.
There was a moment in the hospital when Dominic was there, and actually an ex-employee of the business that we had come up to visit me. And the first thing she says, well, Gary, men don't cry. Be a man.
Wow.
And Dominic looked at me with these big eyes, and I just looked at her. I says, you know what? You have more strength to shed a tear than you do to lift 500 pounds.
Well, yeah. And
you can lift a fridge. I can lift, I'm not a big man. I can lift a fridge. If I put my willpower to it, I'll lift the fridge. But to be able to, embrace emotion, embrace that depth of vulnerability, and be, as much as it's hard, to be well with it. And I'm not going to use the word empowered with it. I'm well with it, because it is building up strength. It's the ability to build up. I can speak my truth. I can speak my feelings. I can speak how I'm seeing things.
You're witnessed.
Yes.
You're witnessed for who you are and what you're actually going through and what you're experiencing. And you're okay, because your existence here matters, right? And so that's what we all need to learn, is that we all have a gift or something special to share. That's why you got sent back, because you haven't finished yet, right? So
untold story. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And this in the hospital when I'm there and I'm going over everything. The first, we go through these radical moments, like, okay, I'm angry. I'm so angry. I'm angry with
Yeah.
life. I'm angry with the person. I'm angry with everything that all of why me?
Yeah.
And all of the hard work, the years of research, I had built elaborate websites. Believe me, I understand the technology and the elaborate website and all the research and the database and the hundreds of products. And I go to boom, delete, 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 delete. And not even thinking of the repercussions
of what you
afterwards,
did.
because I just erased all my own research. Okay, and all of the efforts that had been put into this.
But that was to try and turn off the pain. So what we do as humans is we try to like cut the cord or cut the, whatever is causing us pain. So for me, I took every wedding picture, I took everything that I had of that person, and I went and built a big bonfire, and I was just like throwing in the bonfire. There we go.
I did that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a way of trying to release that pain and that anguish that you're feeling deep within your heart, right?
And something else that I ended up doing is like you mentioned, the pictures, the leftovers, these are the reminders of, that person that you've shared so much with.
Right.
And I, in a split moment of a decision, packed everything up, filled my car up, and I drove 3,000 kilometers across the country and delivered it back.
I did that too. But it wasn't 3,000 kilometers. It was
it was
500.
a 7-day trip of going across, back and forth across Canada. And it's like, okay. And, and I came to a moment after doing this. We all come into a moment sometimes, if it's a break in a relationship, where the anger is turned into maybe an act of vengeance.
The bitterness.
The bitterness, the harshness. You want to give back all of this hurt. Okay. And it took me a while of going through a lot of shadow work to understand that I was wrong in what I did. I was very wrong because she didn't deserve that. She had her own things that she was going with, and I can't hold onus to that story. I can only hold onus to my story, where I was, and to understand the depth of my feelings, the depth of, my mistakes that I made as well, to understand that, giving yourself full, more than that 100% is where you have lost yourself. And this essence of understanding of truth of what that unconditional love is, it's not about sacrificing self.
No.
If you're at a point where you're sacrificing yourself for the love of another, then you have to step back and reflect and see, is this really what I should be doing?
Well, I think too, when you speak about that, there comes a moment of realization, right? Where you realize this is something that happens, but what are the gifts in it? What are the treasures? What is it that I gained through this relationship and through this business and through the happenings, right? That now I can take and build something new. So now can you speak a little bit more about that? Because you took all of that experience and things from your relationship and your business, and now rising from the ashes, the Phoenix Apothecary is now blossoming into what is your true essence, not her vision, but yours, and how that feels.
Because of this, and I can say this, because of this beautiful person, she opened up a world for me to see something more. Okay, there was a moment in my life where I was involved in the IT industry and financial support of the stock markets, and 9/11 rolled around, and that was another very hard day to deal with. And it was a career shift. At that moment, it was, no, I can't do this anymore. Okay, and it gave me an opportunity to start to work with natural essences, essential oils, ingredients, cosmetology, skincare industry. We formed a very beautiful company, and it allowed me to learn a great deal about the power of Gaia, about the power of nature. Where she was limited in, the skincare cosmetology,
the head.
The head of it,
heart.
not the heart. I went further. I went into the spirituality, the stories, the histories, the romance. What's the power of rose? What's the power of
Because you're a
jasmine?
storyteller.
Yes. So it drew me in, and it allowed me to gather a knowledge that is irreplaceable. Irreplaceable into the moment where, there's the old saying, rise from the ashes. Well, thus Phoenix apothecary is the rising from that ashes, where now it's my identity. It's my, everything that's going into it. As much as it's what I've learned from another, it is also what I've put upon top of it.
But do you feel that also it is part of the healing?
Yes.
So for me, clarity became part of that healing process, because I then had to step into roles and things that in the past I would have thought, oh, well, that's just being harsh and cold, and but in business there is this line where you have to distinguish boundaries. Between friendships and acquaintances and business relationships, and you have to be able to juggle that. Whereas in the past, for me especially, I loved everybody and everybody was my friend, and I didn't understand where the boundaries were. So that has been part of the healing process for me. So I imagine you're going through the same thing with Phoenix Apothecary, where you're learning how to heal yourself through the development of this line of products and the development of your business.
So much so.
Yeah.
So much so. The whole rebirth of Phoenix Apothecary now in, my beliefs, my understandings, and, taking it to another level where the magic of what I was seeing as helping heal others was also healing me. So as I'm working with, the essences and these beautiful essential oils and, other, plant extracts and so on, I'm also was healing myself. The power of rose is unbelievable as how it heals to the essence of the heart and bringing out that vulnerability and, allowing you to speak truthfully your emotions, not the emotions of the other. Now I'm speaking from my space.
And then we looked at the chart for Ascension, and then discovered that Rose Auto was actually
right here at the throat.
Essence is right here at the throat.
So, the Queen of Roses is known as the heart note. Okay, she helps clear the passage of the voice to go to the voice of the heart.
So that you are able to get it out. And
so I can able to speak
world.
whether I'm not speaking where I'm speaking on the other. No, I'm speaking from me. I'm speaking from how I feel, not putting that feeling on the responsibility. Well, you did this to me and you did that to me. No, I did it to myself. I allowed myself to, take that path and take those choices, and I sacrificed myself. I owned that choice.
Yeah, like we talked about the other day when we were actually having a conversation, and my comment is that we need to fill ourselves up and give from the overflow, because if we just keep giving of ourselves, we become depleted. And then that's where all the things like anger and bitterness and all those things start to settle in.
Remorse.
Right. But
all of that.
When you give from the overflow, it's nothing but joy, bliss, happiness. Like, I'm happy to give to you. I've made myself full and happy. So when I watch you, especially because I've seen you go from where you were to where you are now, and just watch the shifts and the changes in the emotional body of the healing process of stepping back in is amazing. And
oh my God.
These are all inspirations for people to know that what you see, right, is an evolution. Like, we were once where you are, if you are not in a good space right now. And just know that it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share with people. It's okay to let that part out, that shadow, right?
Well, it allowed me, stepping back to the moment where I was in the hospital, this understanding of brokenness. And it inspired me to write in part my story. And that's where I went from not being seen anywhere on the internet to now all of a sudden, boom, I have a profile. I'm putting myself out there. I'm putting my vulnerability out there. I'm speaking in the lives where I'm, expressing myself and expressing emotions and so on. And I wrote this story and it got published by the Uplift community. And it was called Broken but Fixable. And the whole aspect of that was the rising of the phoenix, the heart fire. And if many of you know through my lives, is that the Heart Fire Chronicles, and that's in part still a continuation of that evolution, where I'm evolving through understanding my emotions, understanding my vulnerabilities. Sometimes I'm overstepping my boundaries. I got to step back, reflect. And I have beautiful people like Kris around and Dominic and others that say, hey, careful.
But
Okay.
We're all meant to call each other. This is fellowship. When you can have a relationship and feel safe enough to be called out or to call someone out and know that respect, that tenderness, that friendship, that it still will exist through that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. And this is where we need to go.
Well,
right.
The strength of clarity is more than a tea house, people. I mean, if you haven't been here, you have to come here. Okay. The very first thing that drew me in was that hugs are free. Okay. And Dominic McKenzie, I owe a great level of gratitude to him.
As do I.
Okay. Because he pointed me to come here. Okay. And it was there in still brokenness that I've evolved into all these different, different levels of understandings and compassion. It's a family. I consider you as family. I consider, all the people who work here as part of a very, very tight, open-minded, heartwarming, there's a million words I can use, but family really is where it is, because I cut cords with that whole story. I cut cords with, toxic relationships, and that included family. Okay. That included cutting cords with my sister, that included cutting cords with my, my brother, the whole time that this was going on. Not only was my relationship breaking down, somebody poisoned my water pond, lost 27 koi. My father was dying. You talk about a trinity of shit. Sorry. It came in boom, boom, boom.
Because how else does it make a stubborn person surrender? So and I'm not judging. Because
no, that's not a judgment.
I'm there too, right? Like I'm right with you. They keep hitting you, like the universe, like God will keep hitting you with things until you go down on your knees and you say, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get it." Yeah.
Unbelievable to. If anybody's going through challenges in life where if maybe it's a broken relationship, maybe you're in question about your employment, maybe you're in question about how you're going to survive tomorrow, or how you, whatever the thing may be, and it's driving you into that corner of a dark space, is that realizes that you're not alone. There are millions of people that are in the same dramas, or maybe not the same story, but the same emotional drama, the same emotional challenge, the same spiritual challenge. I mean, it questioned my belief in spirit.
The picture doesn't look the same, but the emotions and the lesson and thing that you're going through is the same.
I could have recited the serenity prayer to the back of my, like boom, 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 boom. And at that moment of brokenness, I couldn't remember the serenity prayer.
Yeah, because you had lost yourself.
I lost myself. I lost my spirit. I lost my belief in Christ. I lost my belief in God. I lost everything. And as many times as I walked up and down the corridor and walked by the chapel, every time I walked by the chapel, I was angry. I was just like angry, until all of a sudden something clicked. And it was just, I got to go into that chapel. And when I went into the chapel, right away, the serenity prayer, the peace, the sense that there was almost like, when somebody puts your hands on your shoulders.
Yeah, you had angel when you were
there was angels around me. And it just, the serenity prayer came out, the Lord's Prayer came out, all of this in that moment of boom, a candle was lit.
Right.
And that was at that moment that I coined that phrase, the heart fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it blossomed into, again, the rebirth of, a line of products, a line of knowledge that now I'm going to take it to a whole other level.
So something just came to me when you're speaking, because
Yeah.
that's how I work. So
Puts me on the spot all day.
when you talk about going into the chapel and coining the term heart fire,
Yeah.
what comes to me is the Holy Spirit.
Oh, yeah.
So the Holy Spirit is that desire, that thing within you that gives you that inner drive, that
Yeah.
keeps you going, that gives you the inspiration, that is here to help you develop that light and let you shine.
Yeah.
But it's also in that moment, what I see is you reconciling with God. And because when you were angry, you were like, oh, how could you do this to me? Where were you? And all that anger and bitterness. And then all of a sudden you realize in that moment, I know I need to reconcile that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then things start to shift and change.
Oh,
and
so much.
Yeah. And for me, it was writing it down. I give up.
Yeah.
Where are you? I give my life to you. Just show me. Just,
surrender.
So it's surrender.
It's the surrender of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You surrender to the aspect of the yesterdays. Okay, what did I learn from that yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
I've gained wisdom. I've gained knowledge. I've gained understanding of where I have to address boundaries and limits. And I'm still addressing boundaries and limits as I'm going forward, because I think it's a continual, lifelong process. Is where I realize is that we're always fine-tuning this relationship with self, and the understanding that we have a multitude of relationships. We have a professional relationship with friends, relationship that's our intimate relationship with spirituality, and also that relationship of self, where it's, you hit yourself over the head with the 2x4. You're like, why me? Why this? Why did that happen? Okay, and try to blame it on the other, when in all due respect, I came to the point where I understood that I made the choice. I chose to engage in giving of myself, and that I chose to engage in giving my energy.
And you could have stopped it.
And I could have stopped it at any point in time. I could have stood back and said, you know what? Here, you deal with it, and I'll go deal with, anything else that I could have done.
Yeah, but don't you think that part of that is connected to our value and our self-worth?
Yeah.
So we don't separate from that situation because we poured everything into it. So now we identify with whatever that is, a career or relationship. And when it breaks, that's why our sense of self goes, and our self-esteem suffers, our empowerment, all of those things.
You question everything. You look at yourself in the mirror and you go like, ick.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I go look at myself in the mirror and I go like,
that's amazing.
That's,
right?
You've come a long ways. I can look into the depth of my eyes and see, something that I knew was always there. I mean, I've always had, different aspects of life where I worked a lot of deep, spirituality, 12-step movements and groups and so on. But it was, rather than having those acknowledge me, which I always sort of pushed away. It's like, I don't want the praise. I don't need to be acknowledged. Now I'm realizing that it's not what comes from the other.
It's a reflection.
It's a reflection back to me. And now to be able to empower myself and understanding that I am worthy. I am a beautiful soul. I am a beautiful man. I am a man that's sensitive and vulnerable. And I have a side of me that is my femininity and my masculinity. And to embrace all of that of who I am.
Right. And when doors open and shut, you have to be able to go with the flow. So if that door shut for you, maybe it wasn't meant for you.
Yeah.
And God or the universe is sending you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And he knows what's best for you, because what's around the corner may even be better, or maybe stopping you from making a mistake that you might be making.
Yeah.
So personally, I've watched the evolution of yourself and the new line of products that you've created, and it's an inspiration. And to all of you out there,
Mm.
if you haven't tried Gary's products and stuff, you have to come in and try them because they speak for themselves. And Gary is so knowledgeable about all of them. And you can tell that passion and all of the journey that he had to take in order to birth it.
Mm.
Because that's what we all have to do. We have to go through that journey, make ourselves vulnerable, go into our shadows, and then out comes our gift.
Yeah. You envelop now this passion that's from within, the love that's from within. And, speaking about the products, I will tell you that they're made with passion. They're made with love. I put love into them. In fact, sometimes I'm mixing these things and my emotions are all over the place, because I'm feeling also the prana of the essences that I'm working with, the life energies, and the acceptance that there is more to life than just us humans. A tree speaks, a flower speaks, it has emotion, it has feelings, it has a heartbeat. As much as an Eve, an animal, and a mammal, and many know me who know me. I'm very passionate about the earth. I'm very passionate about nature and Gaia, and all of the histories and stories, and the lack of respect of something that is so beautiful.
So with that, Gary, what I'd like to do is invite you back another day and we can talk about that connection with Gaia and all of those essences and how they were created. And,
if I got a story to tell on those ones.
Yeah, but maybe so others who are drawn to Gaia, to Mother Nature, that they can tap in and help heal. And maybe there's even some workshops and programs and things that you have coming up that may be able to help people with that. So I hope that today, that I thank you again for allowing yourself to be vulnerable, but that we've shared a little bit of our stories in order to help you see that, we can be broken, but we are fixable.
Oh, yes.
And we can come back, and we're meant to go through those dark nights of the soul, or
dark days of the soul,
whatever you want to call them.
It can be 24 hours around the clock. It's like, woohoo.
But find those gifts within. Find who you are and what you are, because we all have those times where we lose ourselves, and we need to have that self-care in order for us to fill ourselves up so that we can help others instead of doing it from a place of depletion. And when we do that, we will all rise.
Oh, definitely. Like, never let anybody tell you that you are not worthy or that you can't do this. You can be a poet, you can be an artist, you can be a musician. You can be all. You can be all and everything, or just one and all.
You could be the best mother in the world. It doesn't necessarily have to express. Everybody expresses differently, right? And we as a society put value on what they are.
Oh yeah,
and
we put value on status.
That go. Yeah.
You're a doctor and you're a garbage man. Well, guess what? I've seen the garbage man going down the alley whistling and smiling,
but I've seen generosity from a homeless person that I would never see from somebody who is rich. Like they get gifted money or food from somebody and they go share it with their friends right away. Like this is humanity. This is what we're here to do, right?
I can go into a couple of stories, but I think we'll save that one for another time, especially with the homeless, because that's a beautiful story, but another time.
But anyways, we should get going here. And what I want you to do is I invite you to join Inspired Energy for more stories like this and different topics on either ascension or just actually self-empowerment, all of these kinds of topics. If they interest you, please go to our YouTube channel and like us, and then you'll get notified.
I'll post some links up for all of you over here, but we're actually in 2 streams at the same time. So I'll be sending it out to some groups and everything else to follow also Kris's YouTube channel, Inspired Energy, all of this, because there's a lot of beautiful things coming forward. And, so if you're feeling hopeless, drop the less, become more, and embrace hope, because there is hope when you believe.
And I have one more thing to say to you. May God bless you and keep you. Till next time. See you later.